distinguished members of parliament, former heads of state, ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to join you during this year's Women in Parliament Global Forum Summit 2015 here in Addis Ababa. I wish to thank the African Union, the European Union, and Women in Parliament for hosting this forum at this critical moment in our history. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I've been asked to give a keynote address on the theme, End of Power, Redefining Leadership. In so doing, as we redefine leadership, I've also been advised that I can share my story. This summit is taking place at a time when the African Union is working towards Vision 2063, where we seek to realize a peaceful, integrated, and prosperous continent. Furthermore, the African Union has declared this year as the Year of Women. So as we take stock of the Beijing Platform for Action, it is my hope that our discussions will take cognizance of the fact that while we have registered a lot of success, we have failed to achieve MDG Goal 3, which is women's empowerment, gender equality, and MDG 5, women's health, maternal mortality. It is therefore important that the outcomes of this summit should influence and feed into the post-2015 and post-Beijing +20 processes. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we went to Beijing determined to change the situation of women in the world. I remember us walking in the rain, soaked wet, determined to articulate our issues. We didn't care about the mud. We were determined to articulate the issues that we were convinced, and we were convinced that time for women to participate in leadership and decision-making had come. It was also apparent that if we were to change the situation of women, we had to sit at the decision-making table. Those of us who went to Beijing were really committed, and even those who didn't go. 1995 was the year of change. We took home the platform for action in which women's decision-making and leadership were a priority. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, for me, Beijing was the beginning of the shifting of power from traditional patriarchal hands to a new generation of leaders. Women had arrived. We have noted that power in the hands of women meant power in the hands of the masses. It meant better life for everybody, better human rights, and better governance. This new generation of women leaders emerged from there. And how do I know? I came from that movement. The movement that was to breed future leaders that was not traditional, hence this topic today. This is also a time when we have seen the evolution of power from monarchs to presidents and now to leaders in public square. We see today leaders emerging from the marketplace, from community groups, and most of them emerge naturally. We have also seen power shifting from one continent to another, from one country to another, from boardrooms to cyberspace, from governments and political parties to interest groups and independent candidates. As I was reading an article by Moises Naim on end of power, I couldn't help looking at how leadership has shifted from the traditional patriarchal structures to the hands of ordinary citizens. This has been significant for women's participation in leadership and decision-making. It is amazing to see how far we have come in achieving this in 20 years since Beijing. It is clear that the time for women to participate in leadership positions has come, and those who ignore this do so at their own peril. Indeed, Moises argues, and I quote, "Fringe political parties, innovative startups, hackers, loosely organized activists, upstart citizen media, leaderless young people in city squares, and others are shaking up the old order." He continues to observe that all of these trends point to the same direction: the redistribution and scattering of power from established players to more competitors. These increasingly emerging trends are reshaping power. The participation of women and women leadership is becoming critical, as women constitute more than half of the world's population. And in any case, when I checked, even the other half was brought into this world by women. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, my understanding of leadership is that there are two types of leaders: servant leaders and authoritarian leaders. These two types of leaders look at power differently. The servant leader is inspired and motivated by the people she serves, because she recognizes that power is with the people, that power is based on the trust vested upon the leader by the people. I have always said that leadership is a love affair. You fall in love with the people, and the people fall in love with you. Whereas the authoritarian leader uses authority to exert power upon the people, whether the people consent to that pressure or not, it does not matter much, as long as his or her ambitions and desires are met. It is a well-known fact that this type of leadership is not sustainable anymore. On my journey of public life, I have seen that most women leaders are servant leaders. They assume leadership to serve people first and do not seek to be served first. Women, by natural design, are born leaders, as in most cases they seek to serve, starting from the home through all levels, in communities, private sector, parliament, cabinet, and even at presidential level. Their services are transformational. Just as Robert Greenfield argues, that women leaders are venturesome, less interested in what has been than what can be. They will run the risk of occasionally being wrong in order to get things done. And with their fine abstract reasoning skills, they will learn from any mistakes and carry on. We have seen in many parts of the world where the mighty may attempt to stand in the way of this new type of leadership, oppress their people, abuse power, but they cannot exploit the people anymore. They cannot continuously oppress the will of the people, and indeed, they cannot permanently abuse power. The masses are rejecting this kind of leadership. The people's power will always prevail. This is where a servant leader survives beyond traditional patriarchal power. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, despite the growing number of women into leadership roles in different disciplines, it must be noted that still most leadership positions are occupied and therefore defined by men. As a woman leader, 20 years after Beijing, I have learned that from the beginning, we should have engaged men at discussion level in Beijing. The challenge is that since men were not initially engaged fully at the beginning, it has been difficult sometimes in some countries to secure their support in implementing the Beijing Platform for Action, in advancing women's leadership, and in closing the gender gap. My experience in following women leaders who have made it to parliament, to cabinet, and even to State House has revealed that most of them have characteristics of servant leaders. They emerged from the women's movement. In my experience as head of state, as I have observed that the advantages of having women leaders in decision-making are as follows. They appoint fellow women to positions of leadership. And since I'm sharing my story, I will say what I did. As soon as I became head of state, I appointed the chief secretary, who was a woman, the chief justice, the solicitor general, 11 cabinet ministers and deputy ministers, 2 deputy governors of the Reserve Bank, 8 district commissioners, and many more. B, women, when they are in leadership, they take risks. They are risk takers. Their desire is to solve problems. In my case, I even took the risk of selling the national airline. I even attempted to fight corruption. I even arrested 68 people. Women leaders are risk takers. They pay attention to development and social protection programs to ensure inclusivity of policy and programs. They change laws. In my case, when I was for gender minister, I championed the passing of the domestic violence bill. And I'm proud to say that women in our parliament worked together. And my deputy speaker of parliament is present here, who assisted me in making that happen in Malawi. Women leaders have shown, studies have shown that women leaders feel the agency of doing something about situations. They bring a human face into policies and programs where issues of women and children are concerned. Women leaders have an inclusive team-building leadership style in solving problems and decision-making. In my case, when there were issues of national interest, I invited opposition parties, civil society to State House to sit at a round table to discuss matters of state. Women are peace builders. It is very seldom to see women start wars. And women leaders put the people first. In my particular case, when I found the elections had been conducted, I could have chosen to go to court and argue. But for me, I had to put Malawians first. Women leaders will exit when it is necessary, because for women, there is life beyond State House. However, it will be noted that there's need to develop mechanism of assisting women when they get into leadership, to stay in those positions long enough, because statistics show that as much as we get women into leadership, particularly as members of parliament, the turnover is too much. They do not stay long enough to make the desired positive impact. I have also seen that as servant leaders, your leadership does not end with the office you hold. One continues to serve and finds a new role because you are in love with the people that you serve and the people are in love with you. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the world today is facing new challenges that demand a new style of leadership. The onset of information technology with its attendant social media, online newspapers, Twitter, Facebook, has changed the structure of political governance. For example, the world has witnessed how social media influence change in leadership in a lot of countries. Information technology, together with an increasing young population, has redefined how power is exercised, as citizens can comment, react, or vote to certain decisions by the leadership. We are also witnessing reshaping of geographical environments due to increasing roles played by emerging economies. All these developments call for a new style of leadership and governance. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, my mission in life is to assist women and youth gain socio-economic empowerment through business and education. I spent most of my adult life fulfilling my mission by forming 4 organizations in the civil society. I'm citing these to show that I didn't come through the traditional path. I came from the civil society. I formed the National Association of Business Women, Young Women Leaders Network, brought the Hunger Project to Malawi, and formed the Joyce Banda Foundation. I have walked this journey I am privileged to have experienced most of the issues I'm discussing here. I thought that I should share with this summit, finally, what is obtaining on the global stage as we reflect on the Beijing Platform for Action. While we can cite a lot of success, we need to pay attention to our failures too. Beijing, 20 years ago, in Beijing, we agreed that women should participate in leadership at all levels. Therefore, this powerful forum here should look at the challenges I have cited and consider the fact that we have failed to achieve Millennium Goal 3 as we move into the post-2015 agenda. My concern is while we are implementing this new agenda, we need to pay attention to the fact that globally there is high turnover of women leaders in public office. What is most worrying to me is that it would appear that this trend is systematic and structured. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the traditional patriarchal systems are alive and well. The world might wish to know, however, that the zeal and commitment and determination that women had in Beijing is still burning, and keep pushing for women's participation into the post-2015 agenda. So we shall not relax, we shall march, we shall fight, we shall get into leadership, whether anybody likes it or not. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I want you to look at what is happening on the global stage. Go and Google what has happened in Australia to the former Vice President, Julia Gillard. Google Thailand, what has happened to the former Prime Minister. Google Myanmar, we were hoping to get a female president there. Now she's told she cannot stand. Philippines, former President Arroyo is under house arrest and very sick. I'm told that distinguished human rights lawyers have actually taken her case to the United Nations because those that she was arrested with and charged with the corruption have been released on bail, but she has been denied of that privilege. Go to Brazil, Liberia, Zimbabwe, Philippines, Argentina, and well, start watching what's happening in the United States of America. Before Hillary opens her mouth, just watch what is going on. This is important for us to note because we are here deciding that we are going to continue to push women into leadership, but we must also ask, are they going to get into leadership and stay? This important summit should therefore take an active role in supporting women and supporting one another and standing united. One might ask, as I conclude, what is it then that you achieved in your 2 years when you were in office? I will just cite a few. The country grew from 1.8% economic growth in 2012 to 6.3% in 2014. The country had 2 million people with food insecurity in 2012, and we had a harvest of 3.9 million metric tons in 2013. A model village was built in every district. We reduced maternal mortality from 675 to 460, and the African Union gave us an award for that work. We built 20 holding shelters in 24 months to shelter women to wait at clinics so that labor finds them there so that they don't have to walk and give birth on the way. Press freedom, when I came in 2012, we were at 145. On the global index, we improved that to position 73. And of course, the appointment of fellow women. So as a fellow woman leader, who has had the privilege of being Member of Parliament twice, Gender Minister, Foreign Minister, Vice President, and President of my country, I accepted this invitation to come and declare my solidarity with you, my fellow women leaders. to say that there's still a lot of work to be done out there. It is our moral obligation to fight for women's emancipation together. I join you in this fight. Together we shall work until the job is done. May God bless you.